Well, just like that, it's over. Any concerns that people might have had about Nintendo going woke or going along with the agenda should be immediately dispelled because this was the big hot button issue of the month. Considering what this game is, considering the re-release, considering current events, considering what's happened with other games, considering like the pushback against woke culture in America, like it's safe to say that considering what's happening now in the sphere, it's safe to say that the Wokies don't have any kind of control over Nintendo. And the reason I'm saying that is because, well, first of all, the last couple of years have just been filled with like these insanely based traditional video games. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, and especially Mario and Luigi Brothership all demonstrate Nintendo's commitment to high quality game design that does not push the message, that does not push the political agenda. This has been the case throughout their entire existence, but the narrative in recent years is that the Americans are starting to take control. They're telling the Japanese that they can't do a certain thing. They're censoring games. Like that's been the pervasive narrative for the longest time. And going into the re-release of Xenoblade Chronicles X, we were told that they were going to be censoring stuff, they were going to be making changes, this would be a lesser version of the game than the original. And of course, we've known for a long time that wasn't true. The game has made like lots of QOL improvements, it has new content, this is the definitive version of the game. But more than that, Xenoblade Chronicles X takes a stand in a way that I don't think any other RPG has in recent memory. It has a male option and it has a female option. You can play as a male character or you can play as a female character. None of this type A, type B bullshit. None of this non-binary, fraudulent, just bullshittery. Just straightforward, are you a boy or are you a girl? Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but for the past 5 years, this has been the most woke that Nintendo has gotten, really, in that they've tried to do this weird thing where they tried implying that like the male and female icons aren't male and female icons. Animal Crossing New Horizons did this thing where like instead of choose your gender or choose your sex, it tried to say like choose your style. Like Pikmin 4 just had like a bunch of icons. Splatoon 3 just had a bunch of icons. Pokemon had a bunch of icons. Fire Emblem, like, choose your form, like, they deliberately try to avoid alluding to gender and sex, They don't want to, like, talk about the biological reality, the difference between men and women, or they tried not to, right? It was always like them working around like what the actual developers in Japan were doing, right? It was them trying to push the agenda in any way they possibly could, right? They tried shoving they thems into localizations where they don't belong, and a lot of things like that, right? Um, but with Xenoblade Chronicles X, the definitive edition, where they have it added new things, they have added new features, they have like made a lot of changes to the way the game works and stuff like that. They had an opportunity to change the character select screen from male and female to type A and type B, and they did not take it. And this is huge because this is the thing that the industry has been trying to push the hardest. This is in a lot of ways the most woke the industry has gotten on a standard level. Yeah, obviously there's more extreme woke shit out there. Assassin's Creed is worse. Don't Nod is worse. There are just like countless and countless examples of just more woke products out there. But the industry standard, the thing that all of these people were trying to push, Type A and Type B, straight up rejected by Nintendo. And this, I think, is going to set a very big precedent going forward in that First of all, Nintendo did not cave to the woke nonsense, and second of all, it's showing just how tired people are of the Type A and Type B nonsense. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with this. I don't know what their goal was. I don't know who they were trying to like bamboozle, but like the Type A and Type B thing has been so wildly unpopular that it straight up is causing games to bomb. Like recently, I dropped a game for having they them pronouns. I dropped a game for having like a non-binary option. Like that's something that people like notice and take very very seriously because if you see that on there, you 100% know you're dealing with low quality slop from people who don't know what they're doing, and that's been a consistent thing ever since this started becoming an issue. But now, it seems like we can safely say that like Nintendo is not on board with that particular agenda. Now, like the cope going forward is that like, I'm sure people are going to say that like, well, this is a port of an old game. Newer games are going to be woke. I know like Drums and like Sean Malmstrom are saying that last year that like Nintendo's actually secretly the most woke company in existence. Like it just isn't true, right? They can cope all they want about Nintendo of America, but like the reality is they're just a marketing firm, they're just a distributor. They don't actually make the games. Until you have like an entire company filled with people like pushing the message, you're never going to have like a completely just compromised corporation the way we see in the West. Like I think this is becoming a really clear problem when it comes to Japanese companies is that like the executives are going along with things. Like they're trying to do things, they're greenlighting certain projects and making certain like decisions, but like the creatives don't necessarily go along with it. Like a recent example being like Square Enix and the Dragon Quest III thing. A lot of prominent people at Square like came out in support of Yuji Horii over that. Lots of people came out like speaking out about like how important it is to have attractive characters and the having male and female options and like and I think that is like the general consensus, not only in Japan, but in everywhere in the West outside of like the ideologues, right? Outside of like people pushing the message. This is an ideology that's doomed to fail. And people have been saying this for a long time, but like it really needs to be understood that like this is something that's being pushed by people who like control trillions of dollars, and yet they still can't get people to accept they them pronouns in a video game. They're blowing billions of dollars to try and gaslight us into thinking an individual can be a they them. They're trying to gaslight us into thinking type A and type B is a perfectly reasonable way to refer to men and women. It's not going to work. And not only is it not working, like people are beginning to reject the messaging. Like more and more people are pushing back against it, not only just in video games, but in academia and especially in government right now, right? This is the beginning of the end of like what these people have been like trying to push since the 60s, right? Like this is the end of it. And yeah, obviously we still have like a long way to go, right? We have to purge all these people from their positions of power. We have to break up certain things. We have to like, start building up our own alternatives and our own companies and our own brands. I'm doing that in the publishing industry, right? Like, there's a long way to go in order to like kind of fix all of these problems, but we are definitely in a better position than we were 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in the 90s and the 80s, there was no real pushback to political correctness, to wokeness, to cultural Marxism. There was no real understanding of it. Everybody just kind of pretended that like it was no big deal and that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And to a certain extent, that was true because when you actually look at the grand scheme of things, wokeism wasn't mainstream for very long. Like maybe you had a brief period of time from like, I don't know, 20, from like 2010 to 2022 where it was like kind of generally accepted, but like it's fallen out of fashion, and it's fallen out of fashion hard. You know, men don't really believe in it, and the women who do are like more and more getting like shunned by society. Like it's just it's only a matter of time until like the entire thing just kind of collapses. And I think this with the way Nintendo is positioned now, considering they're still resistant to woke ideology at this late stage, they're not going to be compromised. I think it's safe to say that like as the woke culture shifts, as it falls apart, as like people start like moving on, like there isn't going to be the desire to like change Nintendo games to push the political message anymore. You know, like I don't think they're going to be able to do it, at least not in the way they have been doing. Like I do think what they've tried to do has just completely and utterly failed, and this is just one example why.